Welcome to Meet the Experts with Mike Vilardi. Join us each week as we bring you expert opinions on different subjects ranging from medical to political and community to economy. We answer all of your questions live. Have a question? Call into the show at 888-994-4995, Studio A. And now to Mike.
Welcome to today's show. We have a great show for you today. We're going to talk finance today. We have Edward Lynch, who's a professor at Palm Beach State University. Edward, welcome to the show. It's always a pleasure to have you on.
Oh, thank you very much. Always good to be with you.
And in light of the recent banking crisis, I want to explain to people what happened, how those banks failed, and the finances behind it. So there's no better person I could have on the show than a finance professor at a local college.
Sure, I guess so. But no, I mean, look, the bank failure, there's only one reason that it failed, because there was a run on the bank.
Yes.
That's it. So the banks are required by the Federal Reserve, which is our federal banking system, in order to, they're required to keep a reserve of 10% of the funds deposited. That's how we actually grow money in our country. That the only way to increase the money supply is that banks lend it out. And they lend it out at a higher interest rate than they are charged. So what they'll do is they'll actually make that for their shareholders. It's just, like any other investment. So they've got shareholders in their bank, whether it's private or public, and their shareholders want to make a return on the money. So that's what banks do. So what they do is they take in, say, $100, they keep 10,
right,
because that's what they're required to keep in reserve, and then they lend out 90. And so how we actually grow our money, which is a lot more complicated than this, but take my class, you'll find out.
Right.
But then the next bank they'll lend out 90 to a bank, and then that bank will take the $90, keep 9, and lend out $81. And so now that same $100 investment has put into the marketplace the original $100 and the $90. So you got $190 in the place of the $100. And you keep doing that and doing that all the way down the line. Eventually, you create about, on the $100, you'll create about $500 worth of money, which is different than currency,
right,
which is different than pretty much any of the credit stuff that we use today, because all of our money is based on the faith and credit of the federal government, which is, as we know, getting crappier and crappier all the time.
That's true.
Yeah. So the reason the banks failed is because since they're required to keep 10%, 11% came in. So let's just say, for argument's sake.
Right.
So more than a 10%. So they give away all the 10%, but because it's an on-demand banking system that we have, they're required to give the depositor that extra money. Well, they don't have it. So what do? They sell assets. So this is where the bond thing comes into play.
Okay.
So this bank, SVB, the original one, they initially started doing something which is fairly safe. You buy bonds. So they bought bonds at, say, 2% because the rates were low.
Right.
And so they've got all these, the face value of the bond is say, $1,000, which is the usual par value, is $1,000 for the bond. And they buy it for either at a discount below, so say, for argument's sake, $90 or $980 or $980. They'll buy it at that discount. And then when they turn the bond in, it'll be worth $1,000 to them, and they'll get the $1,000 and they'll make the difference. Well, what they did was they bought all these bonds at 2% interest. Well, the problem is the feds raised the rate. So as the rates went up, and you saw it's gone up 4.5 points in the last, and we're looking at least another probably half a bip or maybe a quarter of a bip coming up now, 25 basis points, which is 1/4% or 0.5%. So maybe it'll go up to 5%. So that means now bonds are paying 7%.
Right.
Well, the problem is if you bought a bond at 2%, you're trying to sell it. No one wants that bond.
Right.
When
you
they
have
can
to
go
give them
and buy a bond
right,
at 7%, 6%, whatever it is, more.
Right.
So they have to sell those bonds at a deep discount.
Right.
In other words, less than they paid for it. So now they're in a scramble to get cash in. They're trying to sell off assets. They're selling off the bonds. And the bonds, they're taking a hit every time that they sell a bond off. So eventually, what happens is like a self-fulfilling prophecy. What will happen is as the depositors see that, they're having problems, more depositors go and take their money out. That means they got to sell more assets at a loss. Then more depositors get freaked out. They come in and they start seeing it, and then they start selling more, and eventually they don't have enough assets to sell. Now, that being said, that's in simplest terms. SVB, quite frankly, would have had more than enough money in there if they liquidated everything, or at least enough to stave off a run on the bank. And so what happens is now the feds came in and they guaranteed, right now we have FDIC insurance,
Right.
which is an insurance policy the banks pay for. All banks pay for it.
That's correct.
For any one bank that could go out. Like we all pay insurance
Right.
for our cars for the one guy that gets hit.
Right.
It's not just for us. That's
Right.
how they,
Exactly.
you know, they adjust the rates
Right.
based on the actuarial list.
Right. And all FDIC is insured deposited up to $250,000 per
Yeah.
account.
$250,000, sure.
Yeah.
So what happens is anyone that's got $250 or under, they
Yeah.
get their money back. It's guaranteed.
Right.
And it's guaranteed by this insurance program. Anyone over that, the bank would then have to liquidate all of their assets. If it's a complete run on the bank and they shut it down, they would have to liquidate all of their assets, and then they would divvy out to everyone else whatever's left. So say 90% is left. And that would have been a number. The number would have been around 90%. Because the FDIC would have insured all of the guys under 250.
Right.
So now, who's going to get hurt? The average guy in America that has a good savings, or couple or woman, it doesn't matter. The average person in the United States that saves money, has a good paying job, they have $50,000 or less in their bank account. That's just the way that it is.
Right.
So the average person, so poor people have less. People that are doing pretty well, they still have around the number, but less than 250. So who are the guys that are over 250? Hedge fund guys.
Right.
Really wealthy people. So when the federal government just came in, they saved the really wealthy people from taking a 5 or 10% hit on their money. Well, guess what? They put that risk into the equation when they invest in things. And when they deposit money in a bank, they're investing in that bank. So they understand the risk. But now we're guaranteeing, the federal government just guaranteed all these evil wealthy people, all these evil hedge funds that they want to go after all the time, and now we just saved them.
Well, let me stop you for a second. Isn't it true that that particular bank in California had a very woke board of directors, all of which were big-time supporters of the Democratic Party, who some of them had as much as $10 million in that bank, which they, of course, would have lost all but the 250. And then the president stepped in to make sure that none of them got hurt.
Well, that's the deal. I mean, regardless of political party,
Right.
that's the truth.
Right.
The president stepped in for whatever reason. Maybe they were Republican donors. I don't know. I
Right.
mean, well, okay, we do know. It's public
Right.
record.
Of course.
But the truth of the matter is he stepped in and he saved all these wealthy people.
Exactly.
And so, you know, and so the investment group, the board, the committee in charge of investing, the investment committee, was these 4 women. And again, I love women. Women are my favorite sex. Dudes are idiots. But women, I love them. But I don't give a crap. If you're not qualified, you're not qualified.
Right, exactly.
And these women were not qualified. You don't pick someone because of their sexual proclivity or the color of their skin. And, you know,
Right.
since I'm Hispanic, I can say that because I'm
Right.
brown.
Right.
I know, and it's racist when people say I'm not brown enough.
Right.
That always pisses me off.
Right.
But that being said, but I should not be hired because I check a box of being Hispanic.
Absolutely. Right.
If I'm not qualified to do a job. And what we see right now, and I hate the term wokeism because you sound like that guy, what's his name, Alex Jones, always talking like this, like a big idiot.
Right.
He's an idiot.
Right.
But the thing is, you know, so you don't want to talk about conspiracy theory, any of that crap. But the truth is, we have stopped hiring people for their qualifications. A perfect example is, we literally have a guy that is in charge of the Department of Transportation.
Right.
And his nickname is Pothole Pete. And he got that nickname because when he was mayor, he couldn't even fix the potholes in his own city. And now he's in charge of an entire country of transportation. I mean, the most ridiculous thing ever. And in my opinion, why he was chosen is because he's gay. He checked the box.
Right.
And I'm getting sick and tired of unqualified people and that goes for anybody. I don't care.
I agree.
If you're a veteran, I appreciate your service. That doesn't mean you're qualified to do surgery on my child.
Right.
And but people want to go after you because, oh, come on, you must be anti-veteran or something like that.
Right.
No, I just want qualified people.
I agree.
And we stopped, and that's the wokeness that everyone talks about. I hate labeling it because then they call you a conspiracy theorist and all of this crap. But the truth of the matter is, it is what it is. And when you have a board of directors at Silicon Valley Bank and no one there, one guy, a white guy, by the way, so I think that's racist. The white guy is the only one that has banking experience. How the heck do you have a board with no banking experience? And the board is a board of a bank. I mean, that's a recipe for disaster immediately. So we have SVP, they go out. Then we have Signature Bank.
Right.
Signature Bank is set up as the crypto bank, one of the big crypto banks. Now what they did is they have an on-demand 24-hour banking system so that people can cash in and out of crypto and at any time of the day or night. And so they had a run for no reason. They weren't doing poorly, but they had a run, and it happened over a weekend when no one can really do anything and stop it. So all of a sudden they get in trouble. Then you got First Regional. They started getting in trouble because they're like, all these regional banks, we're screwed now. We've got to go out and we've got to save them all. And so what we're seeing with the smaller banks right now is truly a nationalization of the banks.
Right.
Because the first 250 is guaranteed by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, so FDIC insurance, and then everything after that is guaranteed by the federal government. So we're taking all risk out of all regional banks, which creates moral hazard. Moral hazard means if there is no consequence for doing something, then you're going to do things that might be a little bit riskier because there's no consequence for doing the risky thing. So in other words, if I make more money when I'm making a bigger risk, but when I make more money for the bank, I get a bigger bonus. Well, I want to make riskier investments.
Right.
And especially, people don't do that now because if they lose the money, they get fired. But now, no, don't worry, we got your back, you're completely covered. And so then we saw Signature go down, we saw the regional bank go down, and now all of these banks are nationalized. And the one good thing is that they weren't bailed out by the federal government. They were bailed out by $30 billion that poured in.
Big banks, right.
Right. So we also have this other thing called deposit window. That's something that the federal banking system set up to give 90-day short-term loans to banks. Now, to put this in perspective, if you want to know where we are with our banking system in the United States, this is all the perspective that you need. Forget the runs or potential runs and the craziness, or Credit Suisse, which is a whole different ballgame. In October, the entire month of October, in 2008, during that huge financial banking crisis, when banks were failing, you're too big to fail, all this garbage, the deposit window, that window of loans that went from the Fed to banks was about 150 to 180 billion dollars.
Okay.
Well, the week before last, 1 week, $300 billion was lent to banks from the Fed.
Wow.
That is the scariest fact that is going to plague our banking system right now, and they are literally trying to hold it together with gossamer wings of a whisper. I mean, there's nothing.
Wow.
And all that we have to do is have one person go out there and say the banking system is screwed, and everyone will go and start withdrawing their funds, and the entire banking system in the United States, I don't want to be a conspiracy theory guy, that's just a fact. If everyone put a run, there's not enough money because 90% of our money is made up money. As I explained before, that's how we lend it out, and the Fed has to back it all up. And so they're not going to be able to. And so we could be in a very, very serious situation. So I don't want to see, the instability, but I would also, sometimes we need a rude awakening.
So this situation could be a lot worse than people think.
Well, no, this situation is a lot worse than people think.
Yeah.
It could get even worse as far as reality goes.
Right.
But right now, based on what we're seeing with the regional banks, that the Fed had to step in and shore up all regional banks. Because who's going to put I'll tell you, you just won the lottery, I'll give you $1 million.
Right.
Tax-free, you know about the tax thing.
Right.
So it's going to be what? 8.9 million just to clear the million once the bloodsuckers get their piece? All right. So, but no, it would be like 1.4 million, whatever it is. So now you got $1 million in cash, and I'm going to give you the option. You want to put it in a regional bank where you got no chance of keeping your money or very little chance, or you got a chance of losing it all, and it's not going to be guaranteed, or do you want to put it in a big national bank where it's safe?
Well, we're going to address that after the commercial break. Thank you very much. We'll be back after the commercial.
This message was brought to you by Warburg Equities and the Cricken Law Trust.
Hi, I'm Adam, an associate with the Cricken Law Trust. We're here to help you process money owed to you through the CARES Act. If your business employed 10 or more people and maintained payroll taxes through the 2021 shutdown, the Cricken Law Trust can help you get your money back. This money is yours, but if you don't apply now, you might lose this opportunity and it'll be gone forever. Contact us now. Go to www.my123erc.com. Now that's www.my123erc.com.
Tax alert! Tax alert!
I was receiving letter after letter from the IRS.
I got Mike Vilardi on the phone and I said, Mike, I got a problem.
He took the pressure off my shoulders.
He just made me feel like I had Superman on my side.
Trust me, he's the man to go to.
IRS problems? I'm Mike Vilardi, enrolled agent. I can help. My company, Winning Tax Solutions, has always gotten our clients the best possible results. Visit us at winningtaxsolutions.com or call us today.
You've been watching Meet the Experts with Mike Vilardi. If you have any questions, call in at 888-994-4995, Studio A. And now, back to the show.
Welcome back to the show. We're back with Professor Edward Lynch. Back to the show here. All right, so we were talking about the regional banks versus the bigger banks. And you were going to explain where would I rather put my money and why.
Yeah, and so that's the thing. You're not going to put your money into a regional bank where you could possibly lose it.
Right.
Because it wasn't held up, so all regional banks would be gone. That's why right now regional banks are nationalized. You would put it in a big bank.
Right, of
where
course.
It's going to be safe, or so you think it's going to be safe.
Well, at least the government's going to, they're too big to fail, so to speak.
Yeah.
Just as the old saying goes, so they're going to come in whatever money's necessary to make sure that a Bank of America or a Wells Fargo does not go under.
Yeah, and so what we've seen is now with the and I believe that the failure of Signature Bank is strategic. Right. Because I believe that what the federal government, and this is not conspiracy theory at all, please look up. I tell everyone all the time, I don't deal in conspiracy theory, and I think those people are freaks. Put the freaking tinfoil hats on, go to a flag-waving event like a freak, and do whatever the heck you want. Just don't talk about policy that you have no clue what you're talking about. I mean, I bloviate in a funny way, but the truth of the matter is, I look all this crap up.
Of course.
So we wind up in a situation where Executive Order 14067, and please look it up, was signed last March 9th, I think, of 2022.
Okay.
What that was to nationalize and come up with a national a cryptocurrency, a centralized cryptocurrency. That means centralized means the government controls it.
Right.
So when you look at what happened with FTX, that was an example of a centralized, people put their coins, their Bitcoin, if you will, and other crypto, but let's use Bitcoin. They put their Bitcoin into FTX. That's centralizing it. That means FTX has control. The little fat chubby fella could get out there and steal all your money while he's having orgies with his ugly girlfriend that doesn't understand math. I mean, I don't know why anyone invested in this company. It makes me crazy. Did anyone do due diligence? So, but that's the example of a centralized. You know, keeping it central, your Bitcoin. And so now we have that being centralized, and then you've got crypto controlled by the government. And so that is a scary thing. Look, Ronald Reagan was right when he said the scariest words you could possibly hear is a knock on the door and someone says, I'm from the federal government, I'm here to help you.
Absolutely.
No, it does not work. So probably the best thing that people can do is, and they always say, you know, the store of wealth is gold.
Absolutely.
You don't make money on gold. It's not a good investment.
Right.
Gold has never been a good investment, and I can prove it to you. 200 years ago, 100 years ago, 150 years ago, an ounce of gold would buy you a really nice suit. Today,
Right.
an ounce of gold will buy you a really nice suit.
Right. Right.
So it doesn't increase in value.
Right.
It maintains value. It's a store of wealth.
Right, exactly.
And so,
Right.
and that's why when you see the stock market go up, gold goes down. Why? People
Right.
are taking out of the store of wealth and investing it.
Right.
When they're scared that the investment's going to go down, they go put it into what a store of wealth would be, which is gold. They buy
Right.
gold. And so those are always contrary. The one goes up, the other one goes down, always. And I thought crypto would do that. And you know, in full disclosure, my son and I mine crypto, and we're very involved in it. And I know we didn't come to talk about crypto, but
Right.
you know, that's where we are with the banking system right now. Is they want to centralize that, and centralizing is scary. So crypto actually is a pretty decent store of wealth right now. And if you look what's happened in the past month, crypto's gone up 15.15%. So it's actually increasing in value,
Right.
which is where it was in the beginning. It would go up when the stock market would go down.
Right.
And so it follows the volatility. So you can go and look at the VIX. The VIX is how volatile the stock market is. So when the stock market is going crazy, the VIX goes up. When we were having all the problems when the stock market was dumping, VIX was around 80. We would like to see VIX under 25, but around 20, under 20, that's a very steady, not volatile marketplace. And that's what investors like. That's what Wall Street likes. Wall Street doesn't like any surprises. They don't care whether it's good news or bad news as long as it's steady and predictable.
Right.
It's the unpredictability, the volatility. So when the VIX goes up, the market goes down. And when the VIX was going up, so was crypto for a while. But then it started getting all crazy because people are playing with it. But crypto might be a decent store of wealth, and the government thinks it is. That's why Biden signed the executive order 14067.
Now, what do you think the ultimate goal here is?
Well, to nationalize the money. If you can nationalize it, come up with a cryptocurrency, you can manipulate it any way that you want. The Fed's job, they would actually lose their job, because their job with monetary policy is only to do two things: control unemployment and control inflation. Well, clearly they haven't been doing so well with the inflation lately.
Right, absolutely
Or
not,
in the
right.
past year and a half. And then the number with the jobs as far as unemployment, that's kind of a skewed number right now, because we're seeing a lot of people that stayed out of the workplace. And so then they came back into the workplace, increased the number in there, which all of a sudden, when you got a bigger number here, even though the number of unemployed actually rose, because the bigger number, so think of numerator, denominator.
Right.
You know, like a fraction.
Right.
When that bottom number goes up and the top number stays the same, the
value
overall
goes
value of that fraction decreases.
Right.
So it's the exact same thing with unemployment. So they haven't done a great job controlling unemployment. Well, they do that with monetary policy. And their monetary policy, there's a couple of things they do. They raise the Fed rate, and they adjust that, which is what they're doing now.
Right.
We're seeing, you know, the rates go up and down, which, by the way, why we don't see big swings in the market when that happens is because it's already taken into consideration in the marketplace. Like I said, they don't like surprises.
Right.
So if they think and you ever notice they're always right. Oh, it's going to go up 50 basis points. And it does. And the
Right.
market doesn't do anything because we knew it.
Right,
Now, if they
exactly.
said it's going up 50 basis points and they raised it 100 basis points, one full percentage, the market
Right.
would flip out and go down immediately.
Right,
But then it would
exactly.
equalize, because that's what it does. It always comes back.
Right.
Investors are always making money. The big guys make money whether the market goes up or the market goes down.
Right.
So
You just got to be on the right side of the swing, and that's how you make the money.
yeah, and then if you know something, well, then you're an insider trader, and you can get in trouble for that.
Right.
But the government can know stuff, which they do.
Well, I find if you follow Paul Pelosi's recommendation,
Yeah,
you
no.
will do very well.
Just follow and do whatever Paul did.
Exactly,
Yeah, do what he
right.
does right away,
Right.
and then you're going to do well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how do you think we're going to come out of this whole banking thing?
Well, it's going to go away because now we've got a lot of things going on. We've got, so many things are going on in the international, just internationally right now with China and Russia, and you got Xi Jinping. The scary part is, and what hasn't been talked about very much, is Gigi, as I call him. My sister's name is Gigi, that's why I say Gigi.
Right, okay.
Such a weird name, Gigi.
Right, right.
So anyway, Xi, he is, because we're tight. So Xi and I were talking, and what he did was he actually brokered a deal with Iran and Saudi Arabia. Now, the scary part about brokering a peace deal with them is he's trying to get Saudi Arabia to use the yuan as the international currency for oil exchange,
Wow.
which means the dollar is not the international currency anymore.
Right.
So,
Well, in the last 2 minutes, I got to ask you a question. They just recently found that many members of the Biden family are getting money from China. What's your take on that before we end the show?
well, they're corrupt animals. I mean, most people in Washington, D.C. are. But the thing is, and I don't care what side of the aisle you're from or you're screwing people from, you're still getting screwed, and we're the people
Right.
getting screwed. And so, if they could keep people fighting against each other, thinking their side actually sticks up for their side,
Right.
which it doesn't ever,
Right.
they're sticking up enough that they could get reelected. And so if they could keep us looking at each other and arguing with each other because we think there's two sides and our side's fighting for us, then we're not going to see them screwing us over, which is what they do constantly. And when you look at just the amount of money, I mean, all of a sudden they said, okay, here's the proof. And it was James Comer that came out and said, here's one of 11 transactions we found
Right.
of China giving money.
Right.
And then what happens? Okay, we're going to go arrest Trump. I mean, it's all diversion. I mean, it is, it is what it is. And for people not to understand that or to call it conspiracy theory or, you're one of the wackos and stuff, I mean, you're just being ignorant and you're an oxygen thief. I mean, there are people that conspire to
Right.
do bad things every day.
And bank records don't lie.
No.
They don't lie.
No, they don't.
Professor Ed Lynch, thank you for being on the Meet the Expert show with
Oh,
Mike
no,
Vilardi.
my
Pleasure to
pleasure,
have
always.
you. And thank you for watching. We'll be back next week with another amazing show. Have a great night.
Thank you for tuning in to Meet the Experts with Mike Vilardi. For more information, contact Mike at 888-994-4995, Studio A. Join us next time for another exciting show.